I could still smell the strange herbs burning in my kitchen even after I had cleaned everything. The small cloth bundle with my picture and strands of my hair tied with a red ribbon was hidden under my sink, exactly where God had shown me in my prayer to look. My hands trembled as I held this evil thing, this curse meant to destroy me. The handwriting on the small paper inside, I recognized it immediately. Victoria, my son Raphael's wife of 5 years. My own daughter-in-law had brought darkness into my home. Lord, give me strength, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Not from fear, but from the piercing pain of betrayal. The woman who called me mother, who had sat at my table and embraced me, had secretly waged spiritual warfare against me. But as the shock subsided, I felt something rising within, not hatred, but a divine resolve. This was not just a family conflict. This was a battle between light and darkness, and I would not retreat. My name is Cecilia Navarro. It's a name given to me by my mother, who prayed I would live a life of sacred music, a life of praise. For 67 years, I have tried to honor that prayer. I have walked with the Lord through sunlit valleys and through shadows so deep I could not see my own hand in front of my face. My home has always been my sanctuary. It is a modest house, with floors that creak with the memory of my 3 children running down the halls. Here, scripture was read at the dinner table, and prayers were whispered over scraped knees and fevers in the night. It was as natural as breathing, as essential as water. God was not a guest in our home, He was the foundation upon which it was built. Raphael, my youngest, was always the tender-hearted one. When he met Victoria 6 years ago, my heart wanted to rejoice fully. But there was a quiet caution in my spirit, a small, still voice that I could not ignore. She had a sadness in her eyes that she kept walled off, a polite but distant demeanor that never seemed to soften. Still, I told myself that love can heal all wounds. I welcomed her as my own, praying that the warmth of our family would melt the frost I felt around her heart. I chose love over suspicion. Every morning of my life begins in the same sacred rhythm. Before the sun graces the sky, the smell of coffee fills my small kitchen. I sit at the old oak table, the very same one my husband, Matteo, sanded and stained himself. The early light, soft and gray, slants through the window, warming the thin pages of my Bible as I turn them. My prayer journal, its cover worn smooth by years of use, lies open beside it. Its pages are a testament, a written record of God's unwavering faithfulness through decades of joy and sorrow. When Matteo passed 7 years ago, these morning moments became my lifeline. The silence in the house was deafening at first. But in that silence, I learned to hear God's voice more clearly. His presence became the anchor that held me steady in the storm of grief. The Lord is my shepherd, I whisper into the quiet dawn each day. And my spirit answers, I shall not want. It is a covenant I renew with Him every morning. But recently, that sacred peace began to fray at the edges. It started with small things, things you might dismiss as forgetfulness or a trick of the light. A set of keys moved from the hook by the door to the mantelpiece overnight. The heavy family Bible, which I always kept on the living room table, I found placed on the floor, its pages open to a passage in Leviticus about curses. I felt a cold dread that had nothing to do with the morning chill. Then the family pictures on the hallway wall began to be disturbed. A photo of my wedding day, of Matteo smiling at me, was turned to face the wall. A picture of Raphael's graduation was found upside down. Each time, I would write them, my hands feeling a strange, unnatural coldness on the glass. I would pray, cleansing the space with my words, but the feeling of intrusion lingered, like a foul odor you cannot trace. My own body began to betray me. A sudden, persistent dizziness would come upon me as I worked in my garden. Sharp, fleeting pains would shoot through my joints with no medical explanation. But the worst were the nightmares. I would wake up gasping for air, my heart pounding against my ribs, the scent of damp earth and decay filling my nostrils. The dreams were always the same, a shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed, watching me with an ancient malevolence. Even the life in my home seemed to recoil. My prayer plant, a vibrant green thing that had flourished in the corner of my dining room for years, began to wither. Its leaves curled and turned a sickly yellow-brown within a matter of days, despite my careful watering. It was as if a blight had descended, an invisible poison seeping into the very air. Victoria's visits, once a monthly, if slightly strained, ritual, became more frequent. But with the frequency came an intensifying coldness. Her hugs were brief, her hands cool. She would sit across from me at the kitchen table, her eyes scanning the room, calculating. They were not the eyes of a daughter visiting her mother-in-law. They were the eyes of someone taking inventory. She started asking unusual questions, her tone casual but her focus sharp. "Cecilia, did you have a happy childhood?" she asked one afternoon. "Do you keep old photographs anywhere? Any special heirlooms from your parents?" Her curiosity felt less like interest and more like an interrogation. She was searching for something. One Saturday, she arrived with cleaning supplies. "Let me help you organize your bedroom," He wrote a prescription for anxiety medication, a small white slip of paper that felt like a dismissal of everything I was experiencing. I took it, but I felt no peace about taking it. This was not grief. This was an assault. The secondary tension, the little human conflict that mirrored this spiritual one, came from my own daughter. Daniela, seeing my health fail and hearing the doctor's reports, grew frustrated with my quiet resolve. "Mom, you have to do something," she insisted one evening over the phone. "Maybe it's something in the house. Mold. Bad wiring. You can't just pray it away." Her words were meant to help, but they stung. "Daniela, I am doing something," I told her, my voice gentle but firm. "I am handling it the way I know how." "But it's not working," she cried, her love for me tangled up in her fear. "You're getting worse. What if it's something serious and you're just ignoring it?" This was the micro-conflict, the painful reality that my spiritual battle made me look neglectful, even foolish, to those who couldn't perceive it. I was isolated not just by the attack, but by the very nature of the fight. In the midst of this, I began to notice a small object that Victoria always had with her, a silver locket, ornate and old. She wore it constantly. When I once complimented it, she simply touched it, a strange, secretive smile on her face. "It was my grandmother's," she said. "It protects me." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. I started to see it not as jewelry, but as something else. An amulet. A focus. The turning point, the moment the fog of suspicion began to burn away, revealing a terrible clarity, came during our monthly family dinner. It was my turn to host, and I had spent the day cooking everyone's favorite dishes, filling the house with the aromas of roasted chicken and garlic. I was determined to create an atmosphere of light and peace, to push back the encroaching shadows with the simple warmth of family. Victoria arrived more animated than usual, insisting on helping in the kitchen. "No, Cecilia, you sit," she said, taking the serving spoons from my hands. "You've done so much. Let me serve everyone. You deserve to rest." Her solicitude was a performance, and I could feel the falseness of it like a discordant note in a beautiful song. I sat at the table but watched her from the corner of my eye. From the kitchen doorway, I saw her line up the plates. She served my son, my daughter, the grandchildren. Then, for my plate, she paused. Her back was mostly to me, but I saw her reach into the pocket of her apron, her movements quick and discreet. She sprinkled something fine and dark, like a ground powder, onto my food before bringing the plate out with a flourish. "Here you are, Mom," she said, her smile wide and bright. My heart did not race. A strange, divine calm settled over me. As she turned away to help little Miguel into his high chair, I felt a clear instruction in my spirit. It was not a voice, but a knowing. Asterisk switched the plates. Asterisk with steady hands, I reached out and quietly, swiftly, switched my plate with hers. No one noticed. The conversation flowed around us, full of laughter and everyday concerns. A few moments later, Victoria sat down and began to eat. Within minutes, a change came over her. Her face grew pale, a sheen of sweat appearing on her forehead. She put her fork down, pressing a hand to her stomach. I don't feel well," she murmured, her voice suddenly weak. She excused herself from the table and rushed to the bathroom. For the rest of the evening, she was violently ill, unable to even sit up. Raphael was beside himself with worry. "It must be food poisoning," he said, helping her to the car. As they were leaving, Victoria leaned against the doorframe, her body trembling. "Must be something I ate," she whispered, and then her eyes met mine. In that moment, the performance shattered. I saw raw, naked fear in her gaze. I saw the dawning, horrific understanding. She knew. And she knew that I knew. That night, after everyone had gone and the house was quiet again, I cleaned the kitchen. As I wiped the counter, I saw her scarf, a silk one she had left draped over a chair. As I picked it up to fold it, something heavy fell out of its folds and onto the floor. It was a small, leather-bound book, no bigger than my hand, held shut by a tarnished brass clasp. My hands trembled as I opened it. The pages were filled with drawings of strange, occult symbols. There were instructions for rituals, lists of herbs and incantations. And then I saw my name. Cecilia Navarro. Underlined. Again and again. Beside my name were notes, scribbled in Victoria's familiar, elegant handwriting. The words were a venomous torrent of hatred. She must be removed. She is a blockage. She keeps Raphael weak, tied to her influence. The inheritance, the family business, it must come to us now. The book fell from my hands. This wasn't just jealousy or resentment. This was a calculated, spiritual plot. The attack wasn't random, it was orchestrated by the woman my son loved, the mother of my grandchildren. She had brought this darkness across my threshold, not with a whisper of ill will, but with ancient, evil practices, believing they could accomplish what her manipulation had not. The grief was a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. But beneath the grief, the fire of divine resolve burned hotter. I walked to my bedroom, picked up my Bible, and knelt beside my bed. The house was silent, but the spiritual realm was screaming. This is not a fight against flesh and blood, I prayed, the words of Ephesians coming to my lips like a lifeline. But against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. I was not facing merely a jealous daughter-in-law. I was facing a spiritual assault, and I understood that it required spiritual authority to overcome. The shadow in my "It's what I know," she insisted, her voice shaking with a rage that was mingled with tears. I learned how to be strong. My grandmother, she didn't have prayers. She had power. She taught me how to protect myself, how to take what I deserve, not just wait for it to be given. She taught me that the world only respects strength. She leaned forward, her eyes glittering in the candlelight. Raphael was supposed to be successful by now. He has so much potential, but you keep him small. You keep him tied to you, to this house, with your emotional manipulations and your constant need to be the center of his world. The inheritance, the business Mateo built. It should be ours already. We have children to think about. A future. I looked at her, at the storm inside her that matched the storm outside, and I felt a wave of divine compassion. This was not a monster. This was a soul in agony, a soul that had made a terrible bargain with darkness out of fear. And you believe these dark rituals will bring you light, Victoria? I asked. You think destroying me will build a better future for your family? They work, she hissed, her hand lashing out and knocking over her coffee cup. The dark liquid spread across the white tablecloth like a stain of poison. Don't pretend you don't know. You've been getting sick, haven't you? The dizziness. The pain. Your mind getting cloudy. That's just the beginning. Soon you'll be too confused to manage your own affairs. You'll be a burden. And then Raphael will have no choice but to take control of everything. It's justice. As she spoke these terrible, chilling words, I did not feel fear. Instead, I felt an overwhelming sense of God's presence, a shield of peace settling around my shoulders. The darkness she was spewing could not touch me. The candle flame between us burned brightly, unflinching. I understood with perfect clarity that the evil she had unleashed was real, but God's protection was realer. Peace flooded my heart, a peace that passes all understanding. And with it came authority. Victoria, I said, and my voice held a new weight, a quiet power that was not my own. For every hateful word you have spoken, for every curse you have sent, for every evil you have plotted against me in your heart, I forgive you. She stared at me, her mouth falling open in shock. Forgiveness was the one weapon she had not anticipated. I continued, my gaze holding hers. The emptiness in my stomach was a constant reminder of my utter dependence on God. My home also needed to be prepared. It had been violated, contaminated by rituals and intentions of darkness. So I began to clean. It was not just dusting and sweeping, it was a holy reclamation of territory. With every surface I wiped, I prayed, I cleanse this home of all darkness, in the name of Jesus. With every window I washed, I declared, let the light of God's presence shine in this place. I threw out old things that held no meaning, clearing out clutter from closets and corners, making space both physically and spiritually. And I filled the house with sound. Not the sound of the television or the radio, but the sound of praise. I played worship music continuously, from morning until night. The beautiful hymns and songs of adoration soaked into the walls, into the very air, replacing the heavy, oppressive silence with melodies of hope and faith. The atmosphere of my home began to change, shifting from a place under siege to a bastion of light. On the second day, I knew I needed wisdom beyond my own. I called my pastor, Eduardo, a gentleman with eyes that held both kindness and deep spiritual discernment. I asked him to come to my home. He sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Victoria had confessed her hatred, and he listened. He listened to the entire story without interruption, without a flicker of shock or judgment on his face. When I finished, he nodded slowly. This is serious spiritual warfare, Sister Cecilia, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. The enemy is cunning and has used the pain in your daughter-in-law's heart to gain a foothold. But you must remember this, God has already given you authority over this situation. The victory is already won, you are now being called to walk in it. His words were a balm to my spirit. He did not dismiss my experience or treat me like a frightened old woman. He validated the battle I was in. Together, we walked through my home again. This time, he led the prayers. In each room, He declared God's absolute ownership and lordship over the space. We anointed every doorway and every window with oil, not as a superstitious ritual, but as a symbolic act of sealing my home under God's divine protection, a declaration that no unauthorized spirit was welcome here. The house is now a consecrated space, Pastor Eduardo said as he prepared to leave. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. The final step, Cecilia, is the most difficult. You must confront Victoria again. But you must do it in love, not in condemnation. Remember your purpose. Raphael picked up the leather book, his hands trembling slightly. He opened it, and I watched as his eyes scanned the pages, recognizing his wife's familiar handwriting twisted into words of pure hatred, detailing rituals designed to bring about my demise. A low sound of anguish escaped his lips. Victoria. Please. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me this is some kind of horrible mistake. Her facade shattered completely. The defensive anger dissolved into a torrent of desperate, ragged sobs. She began to shake uncontrollably, her hands clutching her head. You don't understand, she wailed, her words a tangled mess of pain and justification. She controls everything. She has always controlled you, Raphael, the family money, our entire future. I was only trying to protect us. To get what we deserve. Her accusations no longer hurt me. I could see them for what they were, the desperate lies of a cornered spirit. I rose slowly from my chair and began to walk around the table toward her. I did not move with aggression, but with the deliberate, gentle purpose of a mother approaching a frightened child. She flinched as I drew closer, cowering in her chair. The spirits you invited into your life, the powers you consulted in this book, I said, my voice resonating with a quiet power. They have lied to you, Victoria. They promised you security, but they gave you fear. They promised you power, but they brought you into bondage. They promised you justice, but they filled your heart with hatred and bitterness. As I spoke these words of truth, a strange thing happened. Victoria seemed to struggle physically, her body twisting slightly as if an unseen force was fighting against my words. A low, guttural sound, almost a growl, came from her throat. Her eyes, when they met mine, held a flash of something ancient and cold. It was not Victoria looking at me in that moment. Stay away from me, she cried out, her voice unnaturally harsh. My spirit did not waver. The love of God within me was afire, and I would not be intimidated. I will not stay away, Victoria, because I love you, I said firmly, standing directly in front of her now. I have always loved you. Not as a duty because you are my son's wife, but as the daughter I never had. The enemy has taken that truth and twisted it in your mind. He has made you believe I am your rival when I have only ever wanted to be your family. Raphael, his face pale with grief and shock, she told us about her grandmother, a woman steeped in folk magic and superstition, who had taught her that these practices were the only way for a poor woman to protect herself and get ahead in a hard world. She spoke of the deep-seated fear of poverty that had haunted her entire life, a fear that had twisted my generosity into a perceived form of control. Her jealousy, she admitted, was born of insecurity. She saw the easy, loving bond one had with Raphael and felt like an outsider, incapable of earning such unconditional love. I never really knew what a real family was supposed to be, she said, her voice soft with a newfound humility. My world was about survival, about taking what you could get. I thought your love for Raphael was a form of manipulation because manipulation was the only kind of love I had ever experienced. It was nearly midnight when they prepared to leave. As she stood by the door, Victoria turned to me. For the first time since I had known her, there was no guard in her eyes, no wall around her heart. She stepped forward and embraced me, and this time, it was not the stiff, obligatory hug of a daughter-in-law. It was the genuine, warm, and slightly clumsy embrace of a daughter. "Can we start again, Cecilia?" she asked timidly, her voice full of a hope that was fragile and new. "I want to learn. I want to know what this kind of love, God's love, what it really looks like." I held her close, kissing her on the forehead as I would my own Daniela. "My dear Victoria," I whispered back, my own heart overflowing. "We already have." After they were gone, I stood alone in my living room. The house was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was not empty. It was full of peace. The battle was over. The victory was won. But I knew, in that sacred silence, that the restoration was just beginning. 3 months have passed since that night of fire and freedom. The change in our family is as profound as it is miraculous. Victoria now comes to my home every Wednesday afternoon, not with suspicion in her heart, but with a Bible in her hand. We sit at the same kitchen table where she once confessed her hatred, and we study the Word of God together. The woman who once tried to curse me now calls me for prayer when she faces a difficult day with the children. The transformation is not just spiritual. It is visible in everything she does. A softness has entered her eyes, a genuine smile touches her lips more easily. The constant tension she carried in her shoulders is gone. She is learning to receive love without suspicion and to give it without condition. Last Sunday at church, I watched her from a few rows back. She was worshiping with her hands raised, unashamed tears of pure adoration streaming down her face. Raphael stood beside her, his arm wrapped protectively around her waist, their marriage not just repaired, but being rebuilt